5 years ago, you were earning $48,000 per year. You were renting a modest one-bedroom apartment, driving a 10-year-old Toyota Corolla, and telling yourself, if I could just make $82,000, everything would finally feel stable. I'd stop stressing, I'd feel ahead. You genuinely believed that number would solve it. Fast forward to today, you pushed for promotions, you said yes to extra projects, you changed companies for a higher offer. Now you're earning $91,000 annually. Your apartment has granite countertops, your car has leather seats and Apple CarPlay. You eat out more often and don't hesitate before ordering appetizers. And yet, here you are, watching a video about why money still feels tight. The same pressure in your chest shows up when bills hit your inbox. If anything, the stress might even feel heavier now. And the wild part? You've already moved the goalpost again. Now it's $120,000. That's the number that's supposed to unlock comfort. Does that sound uncomfortably familiar? And I've spent an embarrassing amount of time studying why earning more rarely makes people feel satisfied for long. If you've ever hit an income milestone only to feel emotionally reset back to zero, or if your lifestyle improved but your peace didn't, this conversation is for you. First, let's clear something up. What you're experiencing is not a character flaw. It's not greed, it's not ingratitude, and it's definitely not proof that you need to grind even harder. What you're running into is one of the most researched psychological mechanisms ever documented. It's called the hedonic treadmill. Once you understand how this invisible system operates, you'll finally see why you can sprint toward happiness and still feel like you're standing still. More importantly, you'll learn how to step off. The hedonic treadmill, also known as hedonic adaptation, was first introduced in the 1970s by psychologists Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell. Their insight was straightforward but unsettling. Humans rapidly adapt to changes in circumstances, both good and bad, and eventually return to a relatively stable baseline level of happiness. You win the lottery, there's an emotional spike, then you normalize it. You experience a devastating setback, there's an emotional crash, then gradually you normalize that too. This isn't motivational fluff, it's empirical. A well-known 1978 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that lottery winners were not significantly happier than non-winners 1 year after their windfall. In some cases, they reported enjoying everyday pleasures less than before. Let that sink in. People handed life-altering sums of money ended up deriving less joy from ordinary experiences. That's not about poverty or wealth, that's about neurological adaptation. And here's the part most people miss. Your brain applies this same recalibration process to every raise, bonus, and upgrade you've ever received. Research suggests that for positive financial changes, the adaptation window typically lasts between 3 and 6 months. After that, your nervous system recalibrates. The increase stops feeling extraordinary, it becomes normal. That $65,000 salary that once felt unreal, by month 6, it's just your paycheck. The new condo that made you feel successful when you signed the lease, by month 8, it's just home. Your brain is not engineered to remain impressed, it's engineered to adapt and pursue. And that design made sense when humans lived in conditions of genuine scarcity. But in a modern economy built on consumption, it becomes a trap. Now let's talk about income and happiness, because this is where the data gets interesting. In 2010, Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton at Princeton University analyzed more than 450,000 survey responses. They found that emotional well-being increases with income, but only up to around $75,000 per year. Beyond that point, additional income did not significantly improve day-to-day emotional experience. Now, yes, $75,000 in 2010 isn't the same as today. Adjusted for inflation, that threshold sits roughly between $95,000 and $100,000 in current dollars. But here's the nuance. A 2021 study by Matthew Killingsworth at Wharton found that happiness does continue rising beyond that threshold. However, it increases at a much slower rate. Translation, the curve flattens. If moving from $55,000 to $110,000 gives you a large jump in life satisfaction, moving from $110,000 to $220,000 produces a much smaller bump. You might double your income, you will not double your happiness. That's diminishing marginal utility applied to your existence. And yet, the dominant cultural narrative insists that the answer is always more. More revenue, more assets, more upgrades. But no one explains that the emotional return on each additional dollar shrinks dramatically once your basic needs and moderate comforts are covered. Now let's make this concrete. Imagine you're 32 years old earning $68,000 annually. After taxes, you take home about $52,000 or roughly $4,300 per month. Your core expenses, rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, and insurance total $2,700 monthly. That leaves around $1,600 in discretionary room. You're not flush, but you're functioning. Then you receive a promotion. Your salary jumps to $92,000. After taxes, that's about $70,000 to take home, or roughly $5,800 per month. On paper, you just gained $1,500 in monthly cash flow. But here's what actually happens. You move to a nicer apartment, adding $600 to rent. You upgrade your vehicle because the payment is only $200 higher. You dine out more frequently, increasing food spending by $350. You add streaming services, better clothes, and a boutique gym membership. Now your monthly expenses sit at $4,600. Your discretionary margin, about $1,200. You're earning $24,000 more per year and somehow feel tighter. That's lifestyle inflation, and it's the hedonic treadmill translated into bank statements. We're just getting started. Now, here's the part that should really make you pause. In 2023, Bank of America reported that 52% of Americans earning between $100,000 and $150,000 per year described themselves as living paycheck to paycheck. Read that carefully. People making well into six figures, comfortably above median income, still feel financially strained month to month. And before you assume that's purely due to high-cost cities, the data accounts for geographic variation. This pattern shows up across regions. It gets more extreme. A 2022 survey from PYMTS found that 36% of individuals earning over $200,000 annually also identified as living paycheck to paycheck. At some point, we have to admit something uncomfortable. This isn't just an income problem. It's a psychological expansion problem. As income rises, lifestyle expands to match it. Houses grow, cars upgrade, vacations become more elaborate. Expectations recalibrate, the treadmill accelerates. And because each new level becomes your new normal within 3 to 6 months, the satisfaction fades right on schedule. You're not behind, you're adapting. Now, let's clarify something important. The solution is not to eliminate ambition, it's not to reject growth, and it's definitely not to pretend money doesn't matter. Money matters, security matters, comfort matters. The mistake is assuming that automatic upgrading equals intentional improvement. There is a profound difference between choosing to expand your lifestyle because it genuinely aligns with your values and expanding it because that's what people do at your income level. Upgrading to a larger home because you love hosting family dinners and need space is conscious spending. Upgrading because your peers did and it feels expected is unconscious adaptation. The hedonic treadmill runs silently in the background. It assumes that progress equals consumption and that your future self will be satisfied by what your past self chased. But your present self has already adapted, and your future self will adapt again. You cannot outrun adaptation by accelerating. You can only outsmart it. This brings us to what I call the experience gap. Researchers consistently find that experiential purchases generate more enduring happiness than material ones. Travel, learning a new skill, attending live events, shared adventures. These create memories and social bonds. Physical objects, on the other hand, quickly blend into the background of daily life. There are several reasons for this. First, experiences are less susceptible to adaptation because they are stored as memories rather than existing as constant stimuli. You cannot get used to a memory the way you get used to a sofa. Second, experiences often involve social connection, which is one of the strongest predictors of long-term well-being.
Third, experiences integrate into your identity. You become the person who backpacked across a country, the person who learned to cook Thai food, the person who trained for a marathon. You do not become your square footage. A 2014 study published in Psychological Science found that waiting for an experience generates more happiness than waiting for a material purchase. Anticipation amplifies the emotional return, and the afterglow of experiences tends to last longer. Now, here's the irony of the financial. Experiences often cost far less than the material upgrades people justify in their name. A weekend road trip with friends might cost $350. The luxury SUV partly purchased to enable more trips might cost $47,000. A photography course might cost $180 and provide a creative outlet for years. A kitchen remodel might cost $19,000 and feel ordinary within 3 months. We repeatedly overspend on depreciating goods and underspend on meaningful experiences. That isn't just poor psychology, it's inefficient allocation of capital. And there's another concept layered on top of all this that makes the treadmill even more powerful. It's called the arrival fallacy. The arrival fallacy is the belief that happiness lives at a destination. Once I hit 6 figures, once I pay off the house, once I reach a $1 million net worth, once I can retire. The assumption is that emotional peace waits on the other side of that milestone, but research shows something different. People tend to experience the highest levels of happiness while making progress toward meaningful goals, not after completing them. Anticipation often produces more joy than attainment. Training for the marathon can be more fulfilling than crossing the finish line. Building a business can feel more energizing than selling it. Planning a vacation can generate more excitement than the vacation itself. If you postpone contentment until arrival, you sacrifice the very stage where fulfillment actually lives, the pursuit. I've spoken to individuals who spent 2 decades working relentlessly towards financial independence. They hit their target number, and within months, the emotional lift faded. The structure that provided purpose disappeared. The destination felt quieter than expected. Their brains adapted. The goal that sustained them dissolved. They traded present years for a promise their nervous systems were never designed to sustain. So the question becomes practical. What do you do with this knowledge? How do you pursue financial growth without becoming captive to the treadmill? First, create a lifestyle anchor. Before your next raise arrives, decide in advance how much of it will flow into lifestyle upgrades versus investments. For many people, a 70-30 or 60-40 split works well, with the larger share directed towards investing. If you receive a $12,000 raise, perhaps $4,000 funds improved quality of life and $8,000 goes straight into assets. This accomplishes 2 things. It prevents unconscious lifestyle inflation, and it makes the upgrades you do choose feel deliberate and satisfying rather than automatic. Rules set in calm moments protect you from emotional spending in excited ones. Second, practice negative visualization. This technique dates back over 2,000 years to Stoic philosophy. The idea is simple. Periodically imagine losing what you currently have, your job, your apartment, your income level. Not to induce panic, but to disrupt adaptation. Studies show that imagining loss increases gratitude and appreciation without any external change. You do not need more to feel richer. You need to stop normalizing what once felt extraordinary. Once a week, take 10 minutes to imagine returning to your income from 5 years ago. Feel the contraction. Then open your eyes and recognize your current reality. The gap between imagined loss and present circumstance is where gratitude lives, and gratitude is one of the only reliable antidotes to hedonic adaptation.